So here we are in St. Peter's Square, literally the Catholic heart of the world, the center of where basically all Christianity kind of reverberates out from. And we were just commenting on here, it must be very difficult to be a person of another faith in this city. You know, if you were Jewish, you're literally surrounded by hundreds of thousands of Christians at any given point. You don't notice any synagogues or any other religious things in the city except for Roman Catholic ones. Okay, so I don't know if you can see along the top of the entire square, there's literally, looks like angels and saints all the way around. I don't know about you, but doesn't it feel like they're all just different variations of avatars? And you're just cycling through the different avatars over the generations, passing down the knowledge. Maybe the Pope is a bender. What do you think? Air, fire, water, ground? I feel like fire, maybe.
We're here outside the castle Sant'Angelo, and as you can see from the peculiar circle shape on the inside, which is uncharacteristic of castles from the era, it actually started out as a circular mausoleum for the Emperor Hadrian, and then just over the centuries, as real estate here became more and more important, just subsequent things kept being built on top of it, and it became a castle, and then the castle became the papal residency, and then now it's just a museum.
So here we are at the Castello di Sant'Angelo. You can see by looking at the different layers of the construction, the different timelines. As it advances, we get further up. You can also see that this is a nice, cool place in Rome, and it's essentially its own city. It's got everything you could really need in it, and you can see the fortresses protecting it that way. This is the old part of the castle, and you can see that not much of it has really changed.
You expect the old and the new are all kind of jumbled together and built on top of each other. You can't really tell where one begins and the other ends.
This looks like a many-century-old sewer system going from the upper levels all the way down to who knows where, probably the river. So here up you can see the defenses of the fortress. Got some trebuchets, some cannons, yes, different things over the years. Here we're walking through one of the many painted rooms of the Casa d'Angelo, and it's pretty shocking to see one of these rooms here because the castle itself, in the lower levels, is quite plain, and it isn't until you get further up, away from the armament, do you get to something that's quite a bit more extravagant. This is known as the Unicorn Room, aptly named for all of the unicorn paintings and artwork weirdly displayed all over this room. You can see they had to put this glass up because people started scratching the faces of angels, demons, probably due to likeness or just resentment from the church. So right now we are walking down the angel bridge that leads to Sant'Angelo. It's a pretty monumental bridge for this entire city. It's been featured in tons of films, and if you've ever read Dan Brown's Angels and Demons, you've probably heard of it or seen it before. I think this poor angel has it worse. He's just holding a traffic cone or something. Something that looks like a traffic cone.
Do I put it here?
Come on, guys!
Here?
What wish you were here. What wish you were here.
So this is the Pantheon. Not exactly what I expected. So the Pantheon is free, which is nice. Beware pickpocketers. Not so nice. So I would have to say it's a lot smaller than I thought it would be. I guess I imagined, I mean it's pretty grand I suppose for its time period, but I guess I always imagined something just so big it's just almost incomprehensible.
I also thought it'd be a lot darker. Interesting to see a place just so blatantly taken from the pagans and just Christianized. It's kind of just a whitewash. If you look around, you can see all these empty areas that would used to have statues of Greco-Roman gods, and now they're just empty. Pretty much they just swapped a few statues and called it a day.
And these are the empty places up along the top. It's so weird to be in a place called Pantheon without having a pantheon of gods in it. I mean, you can see behind me, you know, now there's just paintings of Jesus, Mary, angels, replacing all of, you know, the old gods of the Roman times.
This is probably one of the most beautiful and least ridiculous fountains I've seen in Rome. Until you take a closer look and you notice horse butt.
So we were just at the Basilica Church Temple of St. Agnes, and we couldn't help but think that even though it was beautiful, we turned a corner and there's a monument to her grave there, and it has her skull on display. And we knelt down in the place where they give you space to pray, and we both kind of came to the same conclusions, where we just apologized to her for having her skull on display like that. It's probably something she never wanted. She probably just wanted to rest in peace. We also were apologizing for the fact that more often than not, you know, she probably didn't want this sort of attention. She would rather have people, you know, do what she did rather than worship her. I just feel like it's a real weird way of, you know, quantifying religion by worshiping someone rather than following in their footsteps. And that's how you use a water fountain in all of Italy. It's nice that they have these basically everywhere. Even though it was a sign of wealth in previous years and centuries, it's much needed because it's so gosh darn hot. So, I'm just talking about the Rose Men.
the men who give roses. They're everywhere, and it's impossible to turn them down. I think we're just too sweet, or too nice, or maybe we make too much eye contact. We try everything to say no, and yet they force a rose on us, and then we give them money. Duncan and I not only got roses, 2 this time, but we also got a bracelet that sanctified our marriage. We can't get away from the Rose Men, which sounds like a crazy horror villain name as well.
No, don't think you're any better than us. Even putting your hands up like this to say no roses.
They'll go like this and put the roses in your hand, and then they'll let go, and then you're forced to take them. And you try and say things like, oh, no sé. It means nothing.
And then they start to walk away, and then they turn around and say, oh, a little something.
Yeah, there's no escaping the Rose Men. They're everywhere.
These ones are much nicer than ones I've been.
These are. But be forewarned, when you come to any of the big cities in Italy, you will be accosted by the Rose Men. And you will probably be too polite to refuse a rose. This is the Hall of Constantine. I think it's been done by Raphael. So this is the Sala della Immacolata, so the Immaculate Conception Room. So it's all dedicated to the Immaculate Conception and the forthcoming birth of Jesus. That's probably why it's the only room where you can see any amount of ladies. You aren't allowed to film in the Sistine Chapel, but you can imagine what we saw. My favorite part is one you never hear about. God's butt. There it is in all its glory. We're in the Vatican City in the Basilica right now. This is designed by Julius. Pope Julius.
I was going to do that, trust me, I was going to do that.
We are in the Vatican Basilica, and it's really hard to capture how big and expansive it really is. It just continues on in all directions. Every time you turn a corner, it just keeps going. They said it's about 2 football fields in size.
Just every time you turn a corner, there's just more to look up and look around.
Yeah, it's really quite splendid, which is bizarre because we found at some parts of the Vatican City can be very Renaissance, very grand, and then other parts you just have white walls. It's hard to say, but you'll come upon. I really like this part of Rome because you can see behind me and kind of all around me there's a lot of old ruins of old buildings. This is what I always kind of imagined of Rome. I think it's because growing up all I really saw was pictures of ancient Rome. And here, you know, it is a modern day city, so a lot of that's buried underneath. So here's the few places you can actually see what it used to be like before Christianity took over. So here's some more examples of some of the older buildings, some of the older parts of Rome that they keep this way for tourists and educational purposes. There's tons and tons of detail, and you can see going all the way up. It's telling a really long story.
I believe this is Trajan or either Hadrian's. Can't remember. This is the monument of the fatherland in Rome. It is also a monument to Victor Emmanuel II, or the first king of a unified Italy.
Note to everyone, when you get the chance, always buy your tickets in advance, so you don't have to wait with these 100,000 other people. So this is the Colosseum. I mean, I know how old it is, but it's still held up remarkably well. You can tell that the craftsmanship really has been able to endure.
Especially considering it's been used as a quarry for thousands of years.
So you can see over there are the original stands, but then once you look over here, you can see the main floor of the Colosseum no longer exists, and now we can look, instead we're looking down into what was underneath the original floor. So people would battle, I guess, in this area, and then the underbelly is where they would prepare, where the animals were kept. Now you can just see a little bit of a stand over there that's been built, so we can imagine what it was like.
Little known fact about the floor of the Colosseum, it could actually be flooded for mock naval battles. It was really a marvel of architecture. Here you can see the catacombs of the old Colosseum, where if not the bones, but the ghosts of old gladiators wait.
Yeah, you can see the different waiting areas, chambers within these just different divisions of these lines, where, you know, each person would either have to wait, prepare, and possibly face his opponent on the other side, looking back at him, knowing that one of you is gonna die soon.
Or that the other one was a tiger.
For honor!
For tigers.
The tiger honor.
While many around the world keep their eyes peeled for the golden arches at McDonald's, these are the real arches. Perfect in their simplicity.
Well, that's the other thing.
And then there's Carrie. Putting herself on a pedestal again.
So you can see here they've blocked it off, but you can see that these were the original steps that people would take to get into the Colosseum. Just saying, imagine if you were waiting below for your turn to be next, and you can hear the noises above you of a man getting ripped in half by a lion or something. I mean, I know that it's for honor and for bravery, but I think that would even, you know, make even a brave man question what he was getting into. Or at least have a little bit of fear in his heart. But fear can be good. Makes you stronger, makes you fight harder, makes you want to live.
Although very few gladiators actually died, and most animal combats were really not very fun to watch because animals were usually just very afraid of getting killed.
So I don't know if you can really see it or not on this video, but on all the walls there's names carved into them. Doug and I were just saying, I wonder how many of them are new versus how many are old. But we don't see any Tiberiuses or, I don't know, what's another classic Roman name?
Flavius?
Flavius? No Flaviuses. So these are probably all just new ones that people wanted to carve into. Shame. Shame, shame.
Carrie, floppy. Alright, we are on our way to the Forum.
And you have to make something funny happen on the way to the Forum. So Duncan's gonna tell us a joke.
No, I am not going to tell us a joke.
I'm not very good at telling jokes on the fly.
Do that Mario one.
Which one?
What?
Oh,
What's
yeah.
Mario's favorite fabric?
Denim. Cha. We're on our way to the Forum, and I was surprised that I didn't recognize it because I thought I've seen it before, but then I realized it was just in the movie, and it's just, camera set, and it's not the real thing, so I'm an idiot.
Here, overshadowed by the monuments of new, are the ruins of old Rome.
You can see the entire town is still kept in pretty good condition, all things considering. And it reaches all the way down, and you can tour all the way through it. Climb the old buildings, go into the old churches, walk down the streets like it's 1200 or 11 AD.
And this is all just in the heart of Rome. I suppose the only funny thing that happened on the way to the Forum for us is we couldn't really get to it.
No, it was closed, but luckily for us, there's lots of roads that take you right past. And you can see it anyways, just not as close as we would perhaps like to be.
Well, Carrie just asked why there were so many wolves suckling babies around. And that's because the city was allegedly started by two brothers, Romulus and Remus. Their parents killed, and they were then nursed by a mother wolf, and then raised, and then somehow they had the people skills necessary to found Rome. And then depending on which foundation myth you ascribe to, Romulus and Remus can also be related to Aeneas, who was one of the heroes fleeing Troy after its fall. Because Romans just kind of like to tie themselves into everything.